Can you talk about turning on the camera and approaching the subject without judgment? You'd mentioned that you spoke to these gentlemen with kindness, you know, just they're still human beings, they still respond to, you know, people being nice, but at some point you had to show them just who they are, and you approached it without judgment. How does a documentarian do that when they may have strong feelings about the subject?
I think that, you know, I had a screening for this film for prison guards once in Denmark, and it was really interesting. They put words to something that I think we really as filmmakers must do whenever we look at another human being. They said, we always try to separate the crime from the person. And I never for a second suspended my judgment of the crimes. I think my moral point of view throughout the film never flags, and throughout the filmmaking never flagged. But I insisted to myself that I see these men as human beings, because I know the moment that I condemn them as monsters or see Anwar as a psychopath, what I'm doing is actually mainly reassuring myself that I'm not like them. And that if the film has any core message, it's that we are all much closer to perpetrators than we like to think. Indeed, every article of clothing touching my body now is haunted by the suffering of the people who make it for us. And we know that all of them, without exception, are working in places like Indonesia, that everything we buy is produced in places like Indonesia, where there's been mass violence, where perpetrators have won, and in their victory they've built regimes of fear that keep people too suppressed to get the human cost of everything we buy incorporated in the price tag that we pay. We have stories to justify this. Economists have stories to justify this. We, I think, know it, and we tell ourselves that the trousers we're wearing are Hugo Boss and not the work of virtual slaves, but the work of a fashion designer, so as to forget the true nature of our reality. I think the film asks people to look at the nature of reality. And I knew that if for a moment I see these men as anything other than human, I'm once again escaping from the reality by telling myself I'm not like them. So I insisted to myself I always see Anwar and his friends as human beings, and in order to deal with that, I think that I feel I can't make a film honestly about another human being, showing what we human beings are capable of, if I don't allow myself to get close to them. And I insisted that, okay, I will be close to him, and if for a moment I see him as a monster or a psychopath, I will stop, I will withdraw, I'll take some days off to rest, I'll come back and approach him as one human being to another. Now that was difficult, because when you become close to someone, when you become intimate with someone, of course you become vulnerable to them. And so hearing these awful stories, seeing these awful things, then gave me nightmares, because I was open to the fact that I would hope I would never do these things, but I'm very lucky never to have to find out. And so I would have these nightmares, then I would be afraid of the nightmares. That gave me insomnia for weeks, for months. And I think if I got through it, it was because of the support and the friendship and the love of my Indonesian crew in particular, who was going through much the same thing, and who, in a way, I think together we tried to light what was a very dark journey for each other with our care, with our friendship, with our laughter.